my personal opinion that the potential return on investment for Bitcoin in the long term is so great. I mean, the potential upside versus downside is so great. The only mistake that you can make in 2019 is not owning any. Welcome back, everybody. My name is Aaron. This is Altcoin Daily. The reason you subscribe to our channel is for our daily videos on everything you need to know about what's going on in the world today with Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. So we're going to go over this stuff today, and let me start off by saying we're very fortunate to have access to data analysis like this, because normally, I don't know if you know, in the traditional financial world, and especially in a time before the internet, this kind of information was only available to elite players. You know, you had to be a big company or you had to be a rich person who paid somebody else, basically. But today, with the internet in 2019, and in the spirit of everything that Bitcoin stands for, we do have access to information like this. So by the way, guys, if you appreciate me sharing this stuff with you in a nice, concise 10-minute video, support the channel, like the video. I know it's not much, you know, I know it's not a big deal liking a video, but it's a simple thing you can do, and it truly does help us grow as a channel. So let's begin. This is for both new people in the space, the newbies, and this is also for people who've been around a while, because it's easy to lose faith. It's easy to be fearful, especially considering the last 4 months in the market. We have seen straight red candles on the monthly chart for the past 4 months in a row. So this month is almost over. It looks like it's going to close red at this point. We've never seen stuff like this in a bull market before, with the 4 red monthly candles. And this gives everybody that feeling of uncertainty, including myself. So we need to remind ourselves of these other metrics. Most people are not savvy enough to know to look for this stuff or to analyze this stuff themselves. So we can benefit from this information as early adopters. I'm saying don't take it for granted, you know? Anyways, on the bullish side, we've also never seen anything like the first 6 months of this year before. We've never seen a recovery out of a bear market happen this quickly. If you were able to invest in Bitcoin, it was for 4 months, we were below $4,000. You had 4 months. If you bought a Bitcoin, I would consider that doing really good, buying at the bottom. The problem is a lot of people were too fearful to buy down here, or if they did, they didn't buy enough in their eyes because nobody expected this. You know, we rallied up, everybody was waiting for a correction, then we rallied some more. I mentioned this because we had this whole wave of new people FOMOing in above $10,000 at the top just because nobody knew what was going on. So if you bought above $10,000, and now we see for the last 4 months, we've seen lower highs on the monthly chart, it's easy to be fearful. Here's the thing, I'll remind you, Bitcoin rallied up 300% this year. And although we're in a correction, we are still well over 100% up from where we were in year to date, beginning of the year. So Bitcoin is stagnant, yes, but in my opinion, this is a good thing. This is healthy. We don't want to just see it go straight up. Bitcoin consolidating, and there's probably a lot of accumulation happening here as well. When we're above 100% year to date, that's a really good thing. And this is something we see every cycle, actually, right here, right here, right here. Like any investment, but especially with Bitcoin, the people who make the most money are the people who are the most disciplined and the most patient. Fortune favors the patient. And with that being said, let's go into each individual chart here and go over the different metrics as to why I am bullish on Bitcoin long term. Sorry if I rambled there a little bit. We're going to get through these charts pretty proficiently. A lot of interesting stuff. I don't know if you've seen all of this before, but what I want you to notice in every single chart we look at is how every single metric is trending up or trending positive for Bitcoin's fundamental growth. We're going to start off with something that's pretty straightforward, pretty simple. It's Bitcoin profitable days. So Bitcoin has been around 3,353 days. Out of all those days, it's been profitable for 3,078 of them. So that means it's been profitable 91, almost 92% of the time. So, you know, if you bought at the recent local top, if you bought at the last cycle high, obviously the takeaway here is that, you know, if you think Bitcoin is fundamentally strong, just continue to hold. This chart highlights the aggressive growth of Bitcoin's adoption curve over time, which is reflected in price. Because supply is limited, as demand grows, price moves up. It's as simple as that. So let's transition to something a little bit more interesting. It's the 2-year MA multiplier. So this blue line right here is the 2-year moving average. This red line right here is the 2-year moving average times 5. The 2-year MA multiplier is intended to be used as a long-term investment tool. It highlights periods where buying or selling Bitcoin during those times would have produced outsized returns. So basically, you can see that this has been good for calling good buying opportunities and calling good selling opportunities. So anytime it's been below the 2-year moving average, historically speaking, that's been a great time to buy. And then anytime it's been above the 2-year moving average times 5, it's been a good time to sell. Now, what you'll also notice is we rallied up above it, and as of now, we are just hitting it again, which is actually something we've seen in the past 2 cycles before, where we'll rally up and then retest the 2-year moving average. So it'll be interesting to see, what happens. For the past 2 cycles, for the past 8 years, Bitcoin has always came back down to it and spent a little bit of time there, which is interesting, and another great long-term indicator. Okay, this next chart is the 1-year Hodel wave, and it's pretty interesting because this shows us the percentage of people who have been holding Bitcoin for 1 year or more. So today, you can see 55% of people who have Bitcoin today have been holding it for over a year. Of course, it's cool that we can see this because Bitcoin, since it's on a ledger, the only reason we have this data is because Bitcoin is a ledger. But also, if you were to, transfer your Bitcoin to a different wallet, although you'd still be holding it, it wouldn't necessarily show up on this 1 year plus Hodel wave. But let me show you something I've noticed because this is still useful. First of all, these red dots correspond with the market highs or the cycle highs. So you can see the red dots are usually places where people are selling their Bitcoin. They're no longer hodling. And then the green dots are the cycle lows. And you can see those are usually a little bit higher. Now, there's plenty of things we can take from this chart, but I guess what I noticed before we move on is that we are seeing higher lows every cycle when it comes to people hodling their Bitcoin. Higher lows every cycle. And like I've said before, this is the first cycle. Listen, if you're fearful, if you're uncertain about Bitcoin futures today, imagine being back in the last cycle or the cycle before. Let me tell you, Bitcoin's future was a lot more nerve-wracking to people back then. So people weren't necessarily holding for 1 year, taking profits. They were taking profits whenever they could. I think this is the first cycle where people truly realize that Bitcoin isn't going away. And I would think we're going to see people hodling for 1 year or more really start to increase. We're going to fly through some of these next ones because you've seen them before, but this video wouldn't be complete unless I pointed them out. The hash rate up at all-time highs. That means more miners are trying to mine Bitcoin in anticipation that, first of all, the halving is coming up, and miners are turning on their mining rigs because they anticipate the price of Bitcoin to be at a higher price point in the future, and they're trying to mine as many Bitcoin as possible. Hash rate being up is really good. This hash rate distribution, now this is what it looks like today. I don't have what it looked like throughout the years, but let me just tell you, it's trending towards being more decentralized with the mining pools. If you took a look at Bitcoin's hash rate distribution, 8 years ago, 6 years ago, 4 years ago, you'd be seeing these colors. We're seeing more and more colors, smaller and smaller slices each year. So what I just wanted to point out is that we're trending towards more decentralized every year, which is a really good thing. This next one, number of unique addresses used. So this is actually one of the only ones which isn't, it's still very high, but it's not close to all-time highs, but it's still positive, I'd say. We're still in the upper part of unique addresses, and obviously that means no retail people are necessarily coming in at this time, at least as much as the euphoria stage. So if no retail people are coming in the space, who is coming in the space? I've showed you this chart before. The number of Bitcoin addresses holding more than 1,000 Bitcoin, never been higher. You see that right here. So while it was much easier to buy 1,000 Bitcoin for cents on the dollar back in the day, it's never been more expensive to buy 10,000 Bitcoin, yet that's at all-time highs. I actually want to pivot a little bit to this recent news, just came out today on CoinDesk. It's basically Morgan Creek Digital, Anthony Pompliano's hedge fund. They're raising a lot of money, and I liked his quote. He says, "We hear folks saying institutions aren't interested, but this initial close, along with the conversations we're having with tens of institutions, shows that there is no lack of interest." So his company's doing well. We see that high net worth individuals are getting in, but besides that, I've showed you this before, addresses that own 10 Bitcoins hit an all-time high. It's trending up every year. Addresses that hold 1 Bitcoin, this blue line right here, trending up, all-time high. And then, of course, even 0.001 Bitcoin or 0.1 Bitcoin, those are also slightly trending up, even though not a lot of retail people are getting into the space at this time. There are still some. Let me know in the comments if you're new to this space. Then finally, something that is now talked about on the regular, the stock to flow chart. Where actually, stock to flow chart isn't necessarily good to figure out where the price will be in the short term, but it's actually very good to figure out where the price will be in the long term. Now, after the next halving, we can see that Bitcoin should be, according to stock to flow, over $100,000, and then after the halving after that, it should be over $1 million, which is obviously, it sounds unbelievable, but we've never seen an asset like Bitcoin before. And actually, I want to provide you with a link to this article. It's in the description. Falsifying stock to flow is a model of Bitcoin value. This person, or this group of people, actually wanted to back test the stock to flow model and actually see if it is truly something that is legitimate. So they did all sorts of statistical validity analysis on stock to flow, and the results they came up with are that stock to flow is actually a valid indicator. The results they came up with said that stock to flow does actually mean something. So yeah, check it out in the description below. And that is it for me today, my friends. My name is Aaron at Altcoin Daily. There are a few charts we didn't get to look at. I'll bring them up at a later date. I'll see you tomorrow.